So most of you have probably seen this Spotify effect where it seems to be a photo with kind of a different set of colors applied to it. It's what's known as a duotone. I'm going to show you a really fast way of being able to create that same kind of look with just a single adjustment layer. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to do is go ahead and open the duotone photo that I've given you. So this woman right here. And what we're going to do, actually, let me delete that one because we don't want to use that one yet. What we're going to do is we're going to apply what's known as a gradient mask. So right here, go ahead and click on the adjustment layer. That's the circle, the black and white circle. And make sure you scroll down in that list. It's a long list. Let's go ahead and choose gradient map. Now, the gradient map by itself is going to be black and white. What this is it's showing you that that original photo had a dynamic range of darks to lights. Now, those darks to lights does not mean black to white. In this instance, it does, because the gradient map is showing the darkest dark is here, the lightest light is here. But in the photo, they may have used the darkest dark, maybe this dark brown that's under her chin, or the dark shadow that's showing up in her shirt, like down here by her armpit. So this gradient map is going to put black where the darkest colors were and white where the lightest colors were. If you click on this drop down, you can actually throw let me turn the visibility back on. Throw this on here, and that one does some interesting kind of funky effect. You can choose a color like that, something like that. Ooh, gosh, not that. Ooh, that's not looking good. So look at some of these pre-built ones that are in here. We're not going to use those pre-built ones other than a starting point. So let's start with this one. So that in and of itself would be fine, but I feel it's kind of muted. And I'd like to actually add in a little bit more of kind of like a reddish color in here. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to go in and we're going to use that as a starting point, but we're actually going to go in and modify this. So to modify the gradient map, you click on here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to drag this. This is known as a stop. If you click underneath, you might accidentally grab an extra one. Just hold your mouse button down and drag them down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these over. So I'm going to move this one to about 75 or so. We'll move these in a minute. I'm going to put that right about there. When I said 75, it's because it shows you the position down here. So I'm just going to put that at like 20%. And I'm going to add 2 new stops. So nothing happened to the photo. I was just getting this prepared. What I want to do is I want to make this purple. See how washed out it is? I lost all of the detail in her shirt. So let's go ahead and double click on that. And we're going to make this a darker version of that blue. So I'm going to drag this down. Not all the way to black. I still want it to have some. But what I'm looking at is look at the photo. See what's happening where the shadows were. It's taking where the shadows were and it's now making them lighter. If I move this down, now I'm starting to see some of the details that are in there. If I were to grab a completely different color, whoa, look what's happened to her nostrils and her eyeballs. Creepy. So depending on the effect you want, sometimes just fumbling around in here, you can actually find something that you're interested in. So I'm clicking away from that so I can go back to the original color. All right, so now let's go ahead and just make it. I'm going to move this down. I'm starting to look for where can I see details happening in her shirt. All right, so something like that looks good. 18:5:37. Click OK. All right, now let's do the same thing over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on that one. But now what I'd like to do is put in kind of a reddish color. I want to add something else to this. So let me just try this and see what this looks like. I'm going to do 255, 58, and 77. So I've got this kind of orangish red happening. Ooh, I kind of like what's happening there where it's giving me a little bit more contrast on her face. That's kind of cool. And I'm going to like what's happening in this top corner here in a second. So if you want to try that, do 250, 51, 71, click OK. So now you can see these pieces here. Now, one of the other things with gradient ramps is there's this little black dot. This little black dot signifies the middle point where it transitions or changes from one gradient stop to the other. So if you notice here, you've got this darker purple blue, like indigo color, and you've got this orange kind of color. If I drag this, whoops, that happens all the time. That's why I wanted to show you that. Pull that one down. click on the click on the stop, and then grab that little black. So look what's happening on the image. As I drag this around, it's starting to change where it's applying that light color or that darker color. So with this, let's kind of move this back. I'm just trying to see if I can play with the shadows a little bit on her face without obscuring her face completely. So somewhere about there, I'm just going to nudge it back to 40%. So it's just a little bit further back. And then on this one, I'm going to click on this stop. So now it's showing me the connection between those two. I'm just going to kind of play around with that and see what it's doing. It's not really doing much, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that, I don't know, about there. So I'm going to do 36% and click OK. And I'm going to close that. So now that color, the reddish color, seems to be happening over here. So it creates a lighting effect with this. Relatively quick, relatively easy. And if you want to try experimenting with your own color, that's fine. Just go ahead and do another, oops, wrong one. Do another gradient map and just turn off that background one and experiment on your own. See what kind of effect you can come up with. And then when you're done, save it and give me this with both layers. For your gradient map, just turn off one of them so I can see what you created.